Okay, so in section 5.4, we did a lot to do with factoring of polynomial equations. And today we're actually going to divide polynomials. And there's two ways we can do that. We can do it using long division or synthetic division. I'm going to show you both ways because some of your homework asks for long division. But I think synthetic division is a little bit more useful. But you still got to know how to do long division for stuff we're going to do later on. So I'm going to show you both ways. So we're dividing the polynomial x to the third power plus 5x squared minus 7x plus 2 by the binomial x minus 2. So what you're going to do is you're going to write this x minus 2 on the outside. And just like long division was in like third grade, you're going to put your big polynomial on the inside. So that's x to the third power plus 5x minus 7x plus 2. Now I'm going to do a little third grade problem. Do not write this down. We're going to do a third, fourth grade problem here. You're right. Thank you. That's bothering you? Thank you. Don't write this down. This commas go right there. All right. Back when you were in third or fourth grade, you did long division like this, like 4 into 356,742. Right? So you would ask your little fourth grade self, how many times does 4 go into 3? Well, guess what? 4 don't go into 3, right? So you'd go get the next digit, and you'd say, how many times does 4 go into 35? How many times? 8 times. So you'd put the 8 on top. And then you would multiply 8 times 4, and you'd get 32. Then you'd subtract them, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And 35 minus 2 is 3. And then you would bring down the 6. And then you'd say 4 goes into 36 how many times? 9 times. 9 times 4 is 36. And that has a remainder of 0, so you'd bring down the 7. 4 goes into 7 how many times?
Twice.
1 time. 1 times 4 is 4. Subtract those and you get 3. Bring down the 4. 4 goes into 34 how many times? 8 times. 4 times 8 is 32. Subtract those and you get 2 and you bring down the 2. And 4 goes into 22 how many times?
6.
No. 5. Multiply 4 times 5 is 20. And you don't have anything to bring down, so there's your remainder. When you got to be older, you learned how to do the decimals, but to start with, you'd say remainder 2. Y'all remember that? That's long division, the way you learn how to do it with numbers. 89,185 with a remainder of 2. We'd actually bring down a 0 here, and it would be 0.5. Because it's really remainder 2 over 4, which is a half. So we're going to do the same thing with polynomials. Like I said, some of you did this in Algebra 1, some of you did not, just depending on how far your teacher got. So we're going to do it with long division, and then I'm going to show you how to do it with synthetic division. And then after we learn synthetic division, we got a lot more stuff we have to put with it. So it's going to be a involved lesson today.
What is synthetic?
I'll tell you after we do long division, I just said. Okay, so first you ask yourself, what multiplies times x to get x to the third? What times x equals x to the third?
3. No. X minus 2, x minus 2.
What times x equals x to the third? It's not a number, it's a variable, y'all. What times x equals x to the third? X squared. Thank you. That's an 8th grade question. So then after you write down what times this equals this, you multiply it times everything over there. So x squared times x is what? X to the third. And then x squared times negative 2 is negative 2x squared. And do you see how I'm lining it up with stuff in its like terms? Okay? So then we do something, y'all listen. draw your line and change your signs. Because like in the long division when we did in elementary school, we subtracted there. So subtracting polynomials, we change signs. And the first row should cancel out. Is x to the third minus x to the third equal to 0? Yes, it cancels out. Okay? So then you combine your like terms. 5x squared plus 2x squared is what? 7x squared. Bring down your minus 7x. So it's the same type of steps you did in elementary school, except for you're doing it with polynomials now. All right, so then you start over. You say, what multiplies times x to get 7x squared? What times x equals 7x squared? 7x. And it's positive, so you're going to put a plus 7x up on top. And then you're going to distribute. 7 times x is what?
7x squared.
7x squared. And then 7x times negative 2 is what?
14x.
Negative 14x. Draw your line and change both of your signs on the bottom. So this becomes a negative, this becomes a positive. Draw your line, change your sign. Draw your line, change your sign. You're right. So this cancels out. And that leaves me with 7x on the right-hand side. Then you bring down the plus 2. Then you start all over again. You say, what times x equals 7x?
7.
7. So you write plus 7. And then you distribute. What is 7 times x? 7x. No. No, 7 times x is positive 7x. I'll change signs in a little bit. And then 7 times negative 2 is what? Negative 14. Draw my line in. Let me change both signs on the bottom. So this becomes a negative, this becomes a positive. The x is canceled. I'm left with 16. That's my remainder because I have nothing else to drop down. So with your remainder, what you're going to do, if it's positive, you're going to put a plus. If it's negative, put a minus. So we're going to say plus up top. And then you're going to take your remainder and put it over the binomial on the outside. X minus 2. So this is my answer. So I divided x to the third plus 5x squared minus 7x plus 2 by x minus 2. And I got x squared plus 7x plus 7 plus 16 over x minus 2. So the remainder goes over the outside binomial. How do I get good at this?
Perfect practice.
By practicing it
Perfect practice.
many times. All right, let's do another one. This time, I'm going to do 3x to the third plus 17x squared plus 21x minus 11 divided by x plus 3. All right. So which one goes outside?
The x plus 3.
The little one, right?
Quadruple polynomial.
It's just yes, it's a third degree. And then on the inside, we put the big polynomial. 3x to the third power plus 17x squared plus 21x minus 11.
Will there always be two different things to divide by?
Meaning what?
X and 3.
A binomial over there? For, no, not always, but for my purposes, yes. That's what I'm going to give you. All right, so you start by saying, what multiplies times x to get 3x to the third?
3 squared.
X squared, very good. 3x squared. Is everybody okay with that? Then you distribute to the outside. So what is 3x squared times x?
3x to the third.
3x to the third. And what is 3x squared times 3?
9x squared.
9x squared. Draw your line and
That's why you always have us write them in order.
yes.
Okay.
Draw your line and
Uh,
change your signs.
cancel
Yeah.
that now.
Okay, hang on. If we don't put them in decreasing order by our degrees, then you're not lining up with like terms. Okay, so we got to make sure we have a place for all of our degrees. So these cancel out. Combine my x squares. What is 17x squared minus 9x squared?
8x.
8x squared. And then you bring down plus 21x. And then this is where people forget what to do, okay? So after you bring something down, then you start over again.
So 8.
Yeah, so you ask yourself what times x makes 8x squared?
Hang on, what?
What times x
8.
multiplies to get 8x squared?
8x.
8x. Good. So you put plus 8x on top, and then you distribute the 8x to the outside. So what is 8x times x? 8x squared. Don't change sign to the end. And then 8x times 3 is what?
24.
24. This is where I draw my line and
Then change the sign.
change both of the bottom signs, okay? So the 8x squares cancel out. Y'all, the first column should always cancel. Combine my x's, I have a positive 21x minus 24x is what?
-3.
Negative 3x. Bring down my minus 11. Then what do we do?
Start over.
Start over. So you say what times x makes negative 3x?
-3.
Negative 3. So you add a minus 3 on top. And when you distribute a negative 3, make sure you do the negative as well. So negative 3 times x is what?
-3.
Negative 3x. And negative 3 times positive 3 is what? Draw my line and change my sign. And that leaves me with what? -2. Do I have anything else to bring down? So how do you write your remainder?
-2 over x.
There you go. So here's our answer. 3x squared plus 8x minus 3 minus 2 over x plus 3. Why did I put a minus there?
Because it was a negative.
Because I have a negative remainder. If it's a plus, you have a positive remainder. So any questions on long division?
Synthetic.
Okay. So next we're going to talk about synthetic division. And we're going to use synthetic division for the rest of the class. Let me get myself some more space.
Synthetic hair.
Kind of.
I mean, synthetic means fake.
Yes, that means you're kind of dividing, but you're not setting it up to do long division. Long division is kind of the classic way. This is kind of like a easier method. Okay? This is one that we've already done. I think this is example A, but we're going to do it a different way. The polynomial x to the third power plus 5x squared minus 7x plus 2 divided by x minus 2. Now, y'all have never seen this before, so pay really good attention. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to take the binomial over here and set it equal to 0. So go over to the side and say x minus 2 equals 0. And how do I solve that for x?
Add 2 on both sides. And it's going to be x plus 2. Well, x
Equals 2. Okay. So set your binomial equal to 0. And we got x equals 2. So what you're going to do is you're going to set it up over here. You're going to put the 2 in a corner over here. After you get it equal, the little one equal to 0, solve it and put that number in the corner. Now, you're going to write the rest of your numbers are going to come from the coefficients for these terms. What's a coefficient?
The
The number in front of the variable. right?
Yes, ma'am.
Again, we got to make sure we're in decreasing order, and we got to make sure we have them all. So make sure your exponent 3, 2, 1, 0. We have them all, right? So if I skip the x squared or something, you have to put something in its place. But we have them all accounted for. So my first coefficient is a 1, and then we space them out. 5, -7, and 2.
Two don't have a variable.
It's okay. It's a coefficient. It's a constant. It's the constant. Then you're going to skip a space and draw a line. So my corner number came from setting this thing equal to 0. And then these numbers are the coefficients from the big polynomial. Okay? And y'all, this is really simple math here, okay? You're going to bring the first one down. Bring the first one down. Then everything that's on the bottom row gets multiplied times the corner. Everything on the bottom row gets multiplied times the corner. Okay? So what is 2 times 1?
2.
And you're going to put it right here under the 5. And then you're going to add down that. What is 5 plus 2?
7.
And that goes on the bottom. And then everything on the bottom row gets multiplied by the corner. So 7 times 2 is what? Y'all got to know what 7 times 2 is when you're learning.
14.
14. Put 14 right here. And what's -7 plus 14? +7. And what is 2 times 7 again? 14. And then you add 2 plus 14. And what do you get? 16. Now, this last little number right here is your remainder.
I missed something.
Just hang on. Look, so here's what we did, y'all. We did, let me highlight. You did corner times bottom, that went right there. Y'all with me?
Yes, ma'am.
And then we did corner times this bottom, that went right there. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
You seeing that, Dylan?
Mm-hmm.
Then you did the corner times this bottom, and that went right there.
Okay, so 2 times 1 is 2.
Last time I checked.
Okay.
I put it right
you
here.
did 5 times 2
Plus.
Plus 2.
Down the columns you add.
Plus 2 is 7.
Mm-hmm.
You do 2 times 7 is 14.
Add
Negative
down.
7 is 7.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
And then corner times bottom,
it's 14.
and then you add.
Okay.
Corner times bottom, then you add. Then you do have corner times bottom, then you add. Okay, so corner times bottom, then you add. So now look at your bottom row. Your highest degree we started with was to the third power. The third power is what we started with. So this right here makes a polynomial to the next degree down, which is going to be a square. So this is going to be x squared plus 7x plus 7. That's a 1x squared. Right? These are your coefficients for your answer. Take it down a degree. We started with the third degree. We go to a square. And then you bring that down. And then your remainder you do like you did a while ago. That's a positive 16. So you're going to say plus 16 over x minus 2. And that's your answer. Y'all, this gets really easy the more we practice it. Top, corner times bottom, then you add. Corner times bottom, then you add. Okay, let's do another one. Now this is just practicing dividing. We're going to actually use it for stuff in a little bit. Okay. So let's start with getting our corner number. Remember how we got the corner number?
Equal to x plus 3.
Yeah, set that one equal to 0. X plus 3 equals 0. How do I solve that for 0?
Negative 3 on both sides.
Subtract 3 on both sides and x equals what? And that's my corner number. Okay. Where do my other numbers come from?
What's in the parentheses?
The coefficients of the terms, right?
So, yeah.
So for x to the third, I have a 2. For x squared, I have a 1. And for x, I have a -8. And my constant is a +5. Skip a line and draw a line. And if you want to, go ahead and put your box over there on the far right side for your remainder. Any questions so far?
No, ma'am.
So you do negative.
Okay, first you bring down your 2. Corner times bottom, then you add. Corner times bottom, then you add. Okay? Y'all with me?
Yes, ma'am.
So what is -3 times 2?
-6.
Put it right here. Then you add. What's 1 plus -6?
-5.
-5. Then we do.
-3 times -5 is +15.
Goes right there. Then you add. What's -8 plus 15? 7. And then you have a bottom again. So corner times bottom. What's -3 times 7?
Negative 21.
And then you add, and what do you get? -16. I didn't mean for it to be 2 16s in a row. All right. Now you got to write your answer as a polynomial, though. Now, what did I tell you about to do your polynomial?
Drop a power.
All right. So you start with a third power, so you're going down to a square.
So 2x squared minus 5x plus 7 to the -16 over 2x.
Yeah, you say -16 over that binomial. How do I know when to use plus or minus on which part? You go from whatever they are. Yeah. Does that make sense? Whatever they are right here, that's what you put with it.
So you
And
never,
this was -16 remainder, so I put a minus there.
on synthetic dividing, you never swap the signs.
Mm-mm.
On long division,
You
swap.
draw the line, change the signs. Yes. Yep. All right. Here we go again.
I'm sure something still bring up something like that.
Yeah, it gets harder. Just warning you. Which one was this one? Okay, let's do this one. 2x to the third power plus 9x squared plus 14x plus 5 divided by x minus 3. They like threes today.
So +3 is your little number in the column.
That's right. How do you get that, though, mathematically?
Here you got there.
Yeah. I'm not going to be fussy about that, but we're recording live, so somebody might be watching this for the first time ever. All right, so there's our corner number. And that's the 3. Now, how do I get my other numbers?
The coefficient.
The coefficient. So what's my x to the third term?
2,
And the end?
9,
And the end?
14.
And the end?
Then skip a line, draw a line.
Skip a line, draw a line. I'm going to go ahead and put my box on my remainder.
And don't put the arrow going down with the 2.
And then drag you 2 down.
Katie, we're gonna be synthetic add, synthetic subtractive. We're gonna be doing that.
That's right. So then, okay, corner times the bottom, then you add.
6,
All right, 3 times 2 is 6, and we put it right here. And then we do what?
15.
We add them and get 15. And then once we get something on the bottom,
15 is 45.
and then we do what?
Yeah.
59. And what's 3 times 59?
177.
177. And what is 5 plus 177?
182.
182. So what do I write for my polynomial answer?
X squared the second.
2x squared, okay,
plus
plus
15
15x plus 459 to 182 over.
Not to the, it's plus.
plus 182 over
Yeah.
x over minus
Yeah. I wrote it down.
There you go. Yeah. I read you mine. I just want you to say it right. Questions? Is this terrible?
No.
No.
I'm sure you got the
Oh, listen at him. I've converted somebody.
He said, I want to skip some.
Yeah, right. Okay. All right. Y'all want to see one more, and then
Let's do one more long.
let's do one more together, and then you guys try it. Okay. 4x squared plus. Oh, it's supposed to be 4x to the third. My bad. Plus x squared minus 3x plus 3 divided by x minus 1. We're going to do synthetic. So what do we do first?
x equals 1.
Yep. So x equals 1. That's my corner number.
And then 4, 1, negative 3. Draw a line, skip a line.
Skip a line, draw a line.
Oh,
Hang on.
Bring the 4 down.
And then we bring our 4 down.
1 times 4 is 5.
And then what do we do?
Add them together. 5.
We get
1
5.
times 5 is 5. Subtract 3. That's 2.
negative 3.
2.
That's 2.
1 times 2 is 2.
Add, what do we get? And what's my polynomial answer?
4x squared plus 5x. No. Yeah. 5x plus 2 with
Plus.
9 over x minus 1. Okay?
Can y'all do that?
Yes,
Do
ma'am.
one more long video.
No, I'll do this one. What, Dalton? We good? All right, I'm going to give you one. And I want y'all to do it both ways. Do it both ways. Long division and synthetic. Which means you should get the same answer both times, right? But I want to make sure y'all can do it both ways. So do it long division and synthetic division. Then we get to have a real lesson.
This is the one.
Oh, this is just practice.
Huh?
This is practice for the rest.
Oh, easy.
I got proof of y'all saying that stuff. Well, you do the same. 4 minus 3 is
1.
4 minus 3 is 1. Yes. My 6-year-old knows that. both ways.
Oh, shit. And you go to the-
Yes,
Yes, dear.
but you got to break it down.
Yeah, bring down numbers. You can't just have one thing.
Okay,
Then you start over. What times this equals this?
um,
Get the same thing both times.
see the thing, that'd be the long division.
nope, then
How do you get good at it? Practice. Yeah, this is the first one y'all try to do on your own.
Right.
So that's what your homework is for.
oh,
So,
I see what
so I'm gonna do the long division first. I'm gonna start by saying what times x makes x to the third, and that's x squared. Put it on top.
Yes, ma'am.
Then you distribute. X squared times x is x to the third. X squared times 3 is 3x squared. Draw my line and
Oh, okay. Okay, you're in a long division.
yeah, change my signs. And when you change signs, y'all make sure you change both of your signs on the bottom. And these cancel out. And 4x squared minus 3x squared is 1x squared. And I bring down the minus x. And then you start over. And you say, what multiplies times x to get x squared? Well, that's 1x. And then you distribute. X times x is x squared. X times 3 is 3x. Draw my line and change my signs. These cancel out. Negative x minus 3x is negative 4x. And bring down my negative 1. And then I distribute, or I start over again, and I say what times x is negative 4x? Well, that's negative 4. And then I distribute, and I get negative 4 times x is negative 4x. And negative 4 times 3 is negative 4. Draw my line, change my bottom line. Those cancel, and that leaves me with a positive 11. So I say plus 11 over x plus 3. So there's my long division answer. Hopefully I did it correctly and get the same thing for my synthetic division. All right, so I'm going to come do my synthetic now. What do you do first on synthetic?
We're down to 1.
Bring down the leading term.
Negative 3.
So then you multiply. Negative 3 times 1 is negative 3. So what's 4 minus 3?
1.
And then you multiply bottom times corner.
Negative 3.
Negative 3. And then you add and get what? Negative 4. And then you multiply bottom times corner and you get positive 12. Negative 1 plus 12 is a positive 11. My highest degree was a third, so I go down 1 to a square. X squared plus 1x minus 4 plus 11 over x minus 3. Is that the same answer both ways?
Yes, ma'am.
It is. I don't miss it. Oh, I didn't show y'all how I did that, but you had to sit that one in. So there's both ways, long division or synthetic. So on your homework, you'll have the first section will say use long division, the second section will say use synthetic. So let's talk about remainders for a second. This is important. I'm going to highlight it. If your remainder equals 0, then x minus k, which is your little binomial, is a factor. So if your remainder is a 0, then your little binomial that you were dividing by is a factor of that polynomial. So that goes back to factoring. Okay, so if the remainder is 0, that means that binomial divided evenly into it, and you don't have a remainder, which means it divides evenly, that means it's a factor. So we're going to see some of those. This one is going to tell us to factor some more. So what example number are we on? GH. Okay. Factor f of x, which is just a function, equals x to the third minus 6x squared plus 5x plus 12 completely. Now, we did some of that factoring completely stuff before. Given that x minus 4 is a factor. So it's telling me that x minus 4 is a factor of this polynomial. That means when I divide it into it, I get no remainders. So what it wants us to do is find the other factors. Okay? Well, it's kind of hard for me to factor a polynomial like this. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that we know that this one is a factor, and we're going to divide it synthetically. Okay? So if x minus 4 is a factor, then that means x minus 4 equals 0. X equals 4 is a solution. Okay? So there's my corner number.
1.
And then we do the same thing. 1, negative 6, 5, 12. Skip a line, draw a line. So we're doing synthetic division here. Bring down my 1.
1, 4,
Then you add.
-2,
Then you multiply.
-8,
Then you add.
-3,
Then you multiply.
-2.
There's my remainder is what? 0. That means it went into it evenly, and it told me it was going to go in there into it evenly. But what you need here is this solution down here. X squared minus 2x minus 3. That's what you're trying to get to, is this leftover polynomial right here. And then after you do that, you're going to factor it. Making a table. So what multiplies to get -3 and adds to get -2? So after you get, so if your remainder is 0, I want you to factor that polynomial. Make a table. So what multiplies to get -3 and adds to get -2? -3, +1. So these factors are x minus 3 and x plus 1. So you're going to put all your factors together. We know it's x minus 3 and x plus 1. And also they gave me one to start with, didn't they? They gave me that one to start with, so include that one. So there's all my factors. That's my answer. So basically we're doing the same thing, except for once we get our polynomial at the end, there should be no remainder, and we factor it. Not during my class. Your hiccups can wait. All right? So that's what you do. Same thing. Your remainder should be 0. Factor the trinomial, and then list all of your factors. And make sure you include the one they gave you to start with. Okay? Let's try another one. This HI comes next. This one, f of x equals x to the third minus x squared minus 22 plus 40. And this is how the book does it. They give you a semicolon and they say x minus 4. So that means, given this polynomial, x minus 4 is a factor, factor it completely. That's what they're telling you to do, factor completely. And they tell you one of the factors. So what do you do with the factor they give you? Equal to 0. Add 4. X equals positive 4. So that's your corner number. So what are my coefficients that go on top?
1, -1, -2, 40.
Negative 22. Yeah. And then 40. Skip a line, draw a line. Bring down the 1. Multiply, then add. Multiply, then add. So 4 times 1 is what? 4. Then you add. Negative 1 plus 4 is what?
3.
3. Then you multiply. 4 times 3 is 12. Then you add. Negative 22 plus 12 is negative 10. And then you multiply. What's 4 times negative 10? Negative 40. And then you add and get what? 0. And you should if it tells you it's a factor. Okay? So then you make your polynomial out of the bottom. What is that polynomial?
X squared plus 3.
X minus 10. Then you factor that polynomial. So you're looking for two numbers that multiply to get negative 10 and add to get a 3. Try again. Positive 5, negative 2, right? That adds to get 3. So my factors are what two terms?
X plus 5, x minus 2,
And then include the top one. You can just stick that on front if you want to. And these are all of your factors. Make sure you... No? I guess we got one more thing to talk about. Not done. Any questions on finding all the factors? Okay. Then they're going to ask you something a different way. This is the last thing we'll talk about, I promise. 4 more examples. I promise you. Given the function one 0, find the other zeros. Zeros are another word for a solution. They're also another word for the word roots. Some people will say find the roots. And also, 0 is another term for the x-intercept. And this is not going to be much different than what we just did, except for one more little step. I promise you. So they're going to give you the polynomial. What example is this, Jay? So f of x equals x to the third minus 2x squared minus 23x plus 16. And they give you a semicolon 3. That means 3 is a solution. Okay? So if they give it to you like this and it's not a binomial, it's just a number, that's your corner number. So it's actually saving you a step. So there's your corner number. So what goes across top row? 1, negative 2, negative 23, and then 60. Skip a line, draw a line. Bring down your 1. Multiply, then add. So 1 times 3 is 3. Negative 2 plus 3 is 1. 3 times 1 is 3. That's negative 20. 3 times negative 20 is negative 60. Remainder is 0. So what polynomial does that leave me with, y'all?
X squared plus x
plus 1x minus 20. Okay? So multiply to get negative 20, add to get a positive 1. What does that? Y'all, this is easy factoring. What multiplies to get negative 20 and adds to get 1? Do what? 5 and negative 4. Excellent. So those are the factors x plus 5 and x minus 4. So this time it's not asking you for the factors, it's asking you for the zeros, which means it's asking you for the solution. So what you're going to do is you're going to write down all of your factors. And by the way, if 3 is a solution, guess what that factor was that got 3? Don't we change the sign? X minus 3 is a factor. Does that make sense? So you take the 0 and change the sign, put it with the x. So this is the factor. So what you're going to do is you're just, after you factored, it's the same thing, but you're going to set all 3 of them equal to 0. So x plus 5 equals 0, x minus 4 equals 0, and x minus 3 equals 0. Now what's the quick way to solve these? Change the signs, right? Yeah. So x equals positive 5, x equals positive 4, and x equals positive 3. So if it's looking for zeros, after you have everything all factored,
It would be x equals negative 5.
You're right. You're right. Thank you. So after you have everything factored, set all your factors equal to 0. That's it. So if it's asking for the zeros, after everything's factored, put them all equal to 0. Let's do one more that's a little bit different. Oh, yeah. This time it does it like this. That was J. This is K. They tell you f of negative 2 equals 0. Now that f of negative 2 means you're crossing the x-axis at negative 2. So that means negative 2 is the solution. So that number will be the solution. Does that make sense? So if it does that to you, the number in the parentheses is your solution if it equals 0. So then that's your corner number. And so then you say 1, 2, negative 9, 15. Skip a line, draw a line. Get myself some space just in case I need it. Bring down the 1. 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. I add and get 0. Negative 2 times 0 is 0. Negative 9 plus 0 is negative 9. And negative 2 times negative 9 is positive 18. And I add and get 0. You see the funky thing happening here? What does that polynomial say? Squared minus 0x, which is 0, right? Minus 9. How do I factor that? Difference of squares. What two factors make up x squared minus 9?
X plus 9 and x minus 3.
Not 9.
How come it wouldn't be negative x, negative 9x?
Because you skip, this is the x term. It's x squared x constant. You don't have an x term, it's a 0.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So difference of squares, x squared minus 9 is what two factors?
X minus 9.
Not 9.
Minus.
The square root of 9 is 3. And x plus 3.
Oh.
Factoring is important. We told you in Algebra 1. So then you set all of those equal to 0.
Negative 3.
Yeah, and then so that you change the sign, x equals positive 3, x equals negative 3, x equals negative 2. If you want to, you can skip this part and just do that. Copy it. Does that make sense? That makes sense? So that's how you do it if they're finding the zeros. So if it says find the factors, you stop after you factor everything and remember to give them the original one. If it says find the zeros, set all the factors equal to 0. Does that make sense? Okay. Y'all practice this. You've got 29 minutes left in class. I'm going to stop the recording right now. Have a nice day, YouTube.